presentations brought by our probate court, our tax commissioner's office, and also state court. We will kick off with the probate court, and I believe we have Judge Wolk with us. Judge
Good
Wolk,
afternoon.
you get at any time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. So before I was notified, and I apologize for looking over everybody, the monitor that I'm looking at is above. So thank you very much to our IS department for sharing a space with us. Before I was notified that we were going to be going remote, I had a few things in mind after watching some of the earlier presenters. I believe I recall Chairwoman Cupid telling us that you would all be extremely receptive to anyone who brought coffee to their presentation. So I had prepared to bring everybody coffee and expect all of my asks to be granted. I also understand that today is Commissioner Sheffield's birthday, if I remember correctly. So happy birthday to you. I was gonna bring you a cake, but now I can't come near you. And Commissioner Gambrell had some ideas about pajamas, but I decided to forego that as well. I just wanted to say thank you all for your time today. I appreciate that you all are making the effort to hear us out and to get to know what we need in order to do our jobs and present the highest level of quality service to our shared constituents and friends. So let me go ahead and dive into our PowerPoint. And sure, slideshow. Okay. All right. So we are the probate court, often the court you know the least about. Our mission is to provide the highest quality of service to the public while professionally and efficiently carrying out those powers and duties of the probate court established by law. It leads me to my next slide. If we do it, it's because we're told to, we're required to. Ours is a court of law, which means that in order for us to carry something out, there has to be a code section, a case, or something in the Constitution that lets us proceed with our authority. We can't do things because we want to. There has to be a justification legally. We are a court of record. That's often confusing for folks. That puts us in the same category as the state and superior courts here in Cobb County. We also have concurrent jurisdiction with the Superior Court on many actions, which we'll get into a little bit later. I'm going through some of this general information because I know, Chairwoman, you had mentioned early on that if we could give you some context for our functions and how we fit into the Cobb community, into our community, which would be the legal judicial community, as well as context for what it is that we do, because you've got so many divisions and offices and courts to keep track of. So this just tries to give a little bit of context and information.
Thank you, Judge Wolk. This is helpful.
Good. Okay. So to many people's shock and surprise, we also carry on jury trials. In estates, we often have jury trials. In some traditional jurisdictions in smaller counties, they have appeals that go to the Superior Court. In expanded jurisdictions like ours, in larger communities with lawyer judges, our appeals go directly to the Georgia Court of Appeals, as do state and Superior Court cases. I, as the Chief Probate Court Judge, am a constitutional officer, along with the Superior Court Clerk, the Sheriff, and the Tax Commissioner. We are, as probate court judges, the Chief Judge is also the administrative clerk. This is important because you have heard from Judge Leonard, you've heard from you will hear from Judge Bowers and Donna Shappett. You will hear today from our Chief Clerk of the State Court, Robin Bishop, who is over the clerk's office. In Cobb County, the magistrate court and the probate court are a single item court. So this is our one chance to speak to you. We don't have a separate clerk's office with a separately elected clerk who will come to you seeking support for their clerk's office. So this is our one bite at the apple. So I'm going to take 2 or 3 hours. No, I'm just kidding. But I wanted you to know that this is the one time that you will hear from us. So that sort of covers the where we fit and why we do what we do. This is how we fit into the legal community here in Cobb and in general. Superior Court is the one you're most familiar with. They hear felonies, general civil jurisdiction. Essentially, if they're told they can't hear it, they can hear it. Most of the things that they can't hear are things that are exclusive to the probate court. State court handles primarily misdemeanors and limited civil jurisdiction cases. Magistrate court is a 24/7 court that assists in a number of ways to the superior court, and I have to give props to all of our judges. Judge Leonard has been a rock star through COVID. Judge Murphy has been amazing both in evictions and throughout the both been great resources for us. But Judge Murphy handles first appearances, evictions, small claims, and assists the superior court. The probate court, the one you probably will most likely have to deal with, even if you've never done anything wrong, except have a family, is the probate court. We deal with estates and estate litigation. We oversee people who are in charge of estates. We deal with mental health commitments. I know mental health is top of mind for all of you this year in this legislative session. We expect some significant developments in that area. We handle trust litigation. 2 years ago, were handed concurrent jurisdiction with the superior courts over all trust jurisdiction in Article 6 courts like Cobb. Guardianships and conservatorships of adults and of minors. People ask me what that is all the time, and my current reference is all the stuff you've heard about Britney Spears and her guardianship and her conservatorship is the kind of adult guardianship that we do. It can be a mental health issue, it can be a brain injury, it can be dementia, it can be a car accident that leaves somebody unable to make decisions for their well-being or to manage their own property. Or if a minor receives property either through a personal injury issue or an inheritance, then we handle conservatorships for those minors. You're all, I believe, familiar with weapons carry and marriage licenses that come through our office, and I would double my salary if I could just charge $1 for every time somebody makes a joke about those being issued out of the same window. But we do not handle any criminal matters in the probate court of Cobb County. There are a number of probate courts around the state that handle traffic matters, but we don't here. That's been handled by the state court for a few decades now. To give you some further context, the Superior Court here in Cobb County, serving the same constituency that we serve here in Cobb, Superior Court has 11 full-time judges, 7 senior judges, and their clerk's office has about 90 positions to serve the public. The state court has 13 full-time judges. Their clerk's office has approximately 75 positions for clerks to serve the public. The magistrate court here in Cobb County has 3 full-time judges, 15 part-time judges, and 2 senior magistrate judges. Their total office, again, they don't have separate clerk and judicial sides of the office, has about 75 employees when they're fully staffed. Probate court, we got 2. We got 2 judges for the same 800,000 people that these other courts have double digits. We have a total of 31 positions, some of which we are holding in abeyance for retention purposes. We have the possibility of maximizing 31 positions, including the judge positions and me as the elected judge. and 2 part-time positions to make up that 31 number. To give you some context, Fulton County, we have 2 judges, 3 lawyers. Fulton County has 8 attorneys, 57 total employees, 3 of whom are part-time. Gwinnett has 5 attorneys. 1 of those attorneys is part-time. They have 35 total employees, 4 of whom are part-time. DeKalb has 5 attorneys, 32 total employees, 2 of whom are part-time. Clayton County has 3 attorneys and 31 total employees, with 5 of those being part-time. So we are far outpaced in especially the number of attorneys available to work with our office and our cases by our neighboring counties of similar size and similar condition. We are also responsible for lots of things nobody knows about, unless you need us. We do fireworks. That came in handy when the Braves won the World Series. We do cattle brands. That one doesn't come as in handy here in Cobb County as it used to. We have concurrent jurisdiction over habeas corpus actions, removing obstructions from private right-of-ways, certificates of residence, which matter when you want to pour alcohol or to send your kids to college for in-state tuition. And I have also actually changed the county line because that falls under our purview here in the probate court. So we interact on a regular basis with all of these agencies. You've already heard from Senior Services. You've already heard from the Medical Examiner's Office. You've heard some from law enforcement and first responders. And I know you've heard from Magistrate Court and Superior Court's judicial side. I would like to reiterate pretty much everything I heard from the Medical Examiner and Senior Services, because a lot of our population has either recently passed away and we're dealing with their families, or we're dealing with seniors who are losing capacity and need guardianships or conservatorships to assist them in their daily functions. So a lot of the numbers and a lot of the shocking statistics and a lot of the delays that you've heard about from them are hitting us. And I won't belabor those, but please understand, if we have a case, there's a very good chance that there was a body at the medical examiner's office. If they have a body, we probably have a case. If there is an issue in Senior Services with an adult unable to take care of themselves, there's a very good chance that we're dealing with a guardianship and or a conservatorship for that individual or other hospitalization requirements. So there's a lot of hand in hand that goes along with those offices and our court on a regular basis. So let me give you a visual before I go into who we want to be. And I'll admit, this is the most disorganized org chart you're probably going to see through this whole presentation, set of presentations. That goes to the fact that because of the way we are staffed, I put this together, and I am not a PowerPoint expert. So please try to follow along, but understand that there are some lines that go to nowhere, but they eventually will hopefully go to somewhere. We've got this divided into divisions, so let me walk through what we are and now what we need to be. I am the chief judge by virtue of being elected. I have an associate judge, Judge Tara Riddle, who has been an attorney the same amount of time as I have been. We both graduated from law school in 1999. She served as a staff attorney upstairs in the Superior Court and has done a great job, came to us from Legal Aid as the managing attorney after a illustrious career as a probate attorney. Prior to that, she has been invaluable in managing the office. We have a person who was hired as a staff attorney who has now qualified to serve as an associate judge. She has accepted responsibility to handle cases, to enter orders, to deal with all things legal, in addition to serving as our staff attorney at a staff attorney pay. So she is serving the exact same function as all of us, minus a couple of administrative boards that we serve on, for less than $75,000 a year. And she's accepting all of that responsibility and all of that potential liability. And I have aggressively been trying to work through a number of different avenues to get her reclassified as an associate judge and Judge Riddle reclassified as a senior associate. Because if I walk out into traffic and get hit by a bus, there needs to be clarity about who takes over immediately after me, because there have been issues where there was a lag in being able to determine that, and vital functions with the probate court suffered. So we want to provide that clarity and reflect the extreme commitment to the county that these two women are holding, and what they're doing for us and for the community. I won't spend quite as long on all of these positions, but these two are imperative to me, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that those reclassifications are part of this request. We will also be bringing an agenda item to make this an adjustment within FY22, because we weren't allowed to present position requests in FY22 as a budget back in the day. So we will be asking for this. If that agenda item is granted, this will obviously come out of our 23-24 agenda, budget adjustment going forward. So I'm happy to talk with each and every one of you ever about anything, but particularly about this, as it's one of my top priorities. So within our administrative office, we have two main divisions, our license division and our estates division. We have a licensed court support manager position that's currently staffed as a supervisor who oversees 7 other employees and himself, including staffing, including reviews, including all of the workflow and reviewing background checks and all of that. We're asking that he be reclassified to an appropriate level for the level of work that he's doing. We are asking to create a judicial admin tech 4 position twice in order to review background checks. I will admit that there have been some big case law developments that have come up as we've been working on this that may impact that. And we can talk about that as well, but that is an immense amount of high-level lawyerly type investigation. And then we need 3 people who serve in a liaison function with the clerks who are processing. So we're asking for 2 clerk 3s to be created. Our estates is headed up by a supervisor at this point. We're asking that person who oversees the majority of our office in staffing, performance appraisals, all of those supervisory and division manager type activities, be reclassified as a division manager. She oversees 2 subsets, the compliance department. The compliance department reviews about 12 to 14,000 annual returns and personal status reports from people who are running estates. They are either they're accounting or they're telling us how a human being is doing day to day, and they review about 1,000 of those a month. And that is what's happening with those 2 employees in that division. We're asking for a part-time person to assist them in the compliance department. And that would happen in 2024 for projected expected case increases. Then we have and we don't have any adjustments in our estates division over guardianships until 2024, where we're asking for 1 middle management addition. Here in our administrative side, you've recently approved Amanda Marshall to be our court administrator. Thank goodness for you all. because thank goodness for her, I could not have gotten through this budget process and COVID without her. She's sitting next to me now. I'm not talking to my imaginary friend if I turn to her, but she's been invaluable to us. We are asking for 2 hearing officers. We currently have 1 staff attorney. A staff attorney, by definition, is hired by and typically reports to 1 judge, as is the model in the Superior Court and the state court. In our office, anybody who's a lawyer is either a judge, helps the judges, and helps all 30 of our employees in our clerk's office. So they have lines out the door asking about service, asking about requirements, asking about notice, asking about whether a hearing can go forward, whether, whatever the question might be. They are dealing with all sorts of questions from everybody, not just a judge on a case at a time. And it is a different job, and it needs to be appropriately classified. We would also like a courtroom clerk because if, as you can see over here, we've got the chief judge, the senior associate judge, and the associate judge. We've only got 2 hearing officers to assist in court. We'd like 1 courtroom clerk to assist with that 3rd judge, particularly when COVID, I say this with all hope in my heart, ends and we can go back to doing remote hearings in the community. We will need somebody to assist the traveling judge in those hearings as well. We also have a judicial admin tech 2 who's currently serving as our fiscal clerk. She is qualified to be a fiscal clerk. She is functioning as a fiscal clerk, and we would ask that she be reclassified for that, and that we hire an administrative assistant who can help the new associate judge and the court administrator doing exactly this type of function, so that you guys don't have to look at my disorganized org chart, that these folks can also get the assistance that they need to put together these types of presentations and communicate with you and other agencies appropriately. So this is our dream team. This is where we hope to get to by the end of 2024 with the inclusion of these additional positions that we're asking for, or the reclassifications. You asked us to address our challenges and opportunities for improvement. Our challenges, you've heard it over and over again as I've watched everybody else present, but it's employee retention. I'll show you a slide on that in a minute that'll drive it home for a court of 31 employees, but employee retention is our number 1 issue. Our on the ground problem right now is we just don't know day to day what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen in this legislative session. We took on an entire area of law a couple years ago when something passed. We may lose an entire area based on some proposed legislation this year. But we just never know, and we don't know what's going to pop up as a result of mental health legislation and all of those types of things. And we don't know how to project 2.5 years from now if we don't know what we're going to be responsible for. We don't know in reality all of the day-to-day impacts of UCCMS. This is the case management system that you all have supported and funded for us, and that we have aggressively been working to take the lead on in order to get this on the ground and get it moving. But in reality, we're a test case, and things like, do we still need as many clerks for some of these positions if we are able to automate some of these things? And what kinds of budgets do we need for simple things like labels and things are impacted by UCCMS and class and pay? We're trying to address a number of these reclassifications through class and pay as well. If that's unsuccessful, I'll continue to come to you all and ask that these adjustments be made. We need adequate space for our court. We need to be able to conduct our administrative duties, our record storage, and for safe customer interaction and safe interaction between our employees right now. We've got an increasing demand already for mental health treatment, which we anticipate will be increased. We've got an increasing need for guardianships and conservatorships that we again expect to increase. Deaths in Cobb County increased by 18.7% between 2018 and 2020. This is a direct result or a direct impact on our workflows and our demands, and we are feeling it, and it's definitely a challenge for our office. Office of 31 people in FY21 in the middle of a pandemic, where we have families rushing to us following dropping their family members off at emergency rooms, needing emergency guardianships to make life and death decisions for their family. We have 32 people leave in a year. We have worked hard to make it as positive a place to work as we can, but there are real life challenges and real life struggles that we have. Space challenges, not like outer space, but in our office. This is an issue. We've been in the same footprint since 1996, excepting the recent annex that we built out in the atrium for our license division for 6 employees to sit out there and conduct business. Up here in the left-hand corner, you'll see that 2 of our folks are sitting at fold-away tables because there's not enough space and proximity to the files. So this was a solution that we put in place. Down in the lower left corner, you'll see our break room for 31 employees. We don't have enough space, so we stagger lunches. We ask people to eat at their desks. We ask them to just make sure and stay away. There aren't that many chairs now that we've re-implemented some of our social distancing protocols, so we have even less space. And on the right, this is our jury room. This is where we do training. This is where we do some of our meetings, because other than our courtroom, this is the largest space that we have to conduct business with our employees. So this is where we have training meetings. We have conferences. We have some folks, because their supervisors in cubicles are having to do performance appraisals in this room. God forbid we have a jury trial come up when we have new hires starting, because we may or we won't be able to use this space as a training area. These are facts you've seen before. Metro Atlanta has the fastest growing 65 population in the country. Successfully, Georgia is one of the greatest places to retire, but that impacts us. Cobb County is particularly attractive because of the decisions that you all have made in leadership to attract folks over 65. Those impact our constituents and the users of our court. 12.5% of Cobb County residents are over 65, and 25% of the population is over 55. 2020, there were more than 175,000 Cobb County citizens over the age of 55. The senior population is on track to double in less than 15 years. The over 60 population in Cobb is rapidly increasing, and it's the fastest growing demographic in Cobb. I don't want to give the implication that everybody who's over the age of 55 or 60 or 65 needs the probate court, but there is a greater demand amongst that population for the use of our court than any other population demographic by type. And so these numbers specifically reflect on our demands and what we need. So we are dealing with our overall operating budget. We've got a general proposed increase of almost 60%, and that's staggering. There are a few attributable considerations to that. I will bring you to the entirety of the number, because at our highest, we're under $4 million to service a population of 800,000 people. And everyone in the community at one point in time or another will need our services. It's the one thing that you can count on besides taxes. And we are one of the least funded agencies, definitely courts. And so it's important to note that while we're talking about significant increases, we're talking about small overall numbers. Our percentage in the personnel budget, I'll let you look at this on slide 27, but I'd like to go into the breakdown because due to the limitations of OpenGov, all of our new positions are attributable to 2023, even though there are 3 of them that we are actually only asking for in our 2024 budget in the allocation here in the PowerPoint. I've detailed a lot of this, so I'm just going to kind of go through it because I don't want to eat up too much of the time. But the senior judge, the senior associate judge, the hearing officer, the judicial admin tech 4s are being asked for in our license division to investigate criminal disqualifiers for those seeking weapons carry licenses. Each of those positions fully funded is estimated at $73,124 per position. That's not the salary, that's the total funding. So that $146,246 is for both of those positions in 2023. We are asking for the associate judge who is currently serving as a staff attorney with the title of hearing officer to be adjusted to an associate judge. That adjustment will total a $92,309 and 24-cent total adjustment for benefits and everything for a job she's been doing for nearly 2 months now, with no recognition and no vote of confidence from the leadership in terms of salary and adjustment. So I'm just asking that that be a priority. And again, you'll see that independently as an agenda item. Courtroom clerk, we need for that additional hearing officer. We need an additional person to assist with overseeing our clerks who are processing files to make sure that files are moving and that cases are being resolved so that we don't have families who are in limbo. And a few of you have sent your condolences on the death of my stepfather 2 weeks ago and my mom staying with us. I'm living this. I know that others of you have recently gone through this personally. This limbo is hard. Not getting documents back is emotionally draining and it is an exhausting process anyway. I am sensitive to that all the time. I'm particularly sensitive to it now, but we need folks who can help the folks on the ground move these cases so that these families get closure and can move on. We need to reclassify our estates supervisor to a division manager and our license supervisor to a court support manager. We need a reclassification of a staff attorney position that we have to a hearing officer in order to get that more in line with the job duties and requirements and more in line with like positions throughout the county. We have 2 positions that we'd like to reclassify from a Tech 2 to a Tech 3 at a cost of $5,000 in order to adjust them to the duties that they are conducting on a daily basis. And again, our fiscal tech, instead of being classified as a judicial admin Tech 2, be classified as a fiscal Tech 3 to be in line with like employees. In 2024, we're looking at hiring an administrative specialist, an assistant to help Amanda as our court administrator, and hopefully by then Associate Judge Poland in order to conduct and present as necessary and to assist. And we need a supervisor. We anticipate needing an additional processor in Tech 3 for the increased caseload that we anticipate over the next 2.5 years, and a compliance clerk part-time that I discussed earlier to assist in the caseload in the oversight of people who are either serving in fiduciary capacities, either for estates or over conservatorships and guardianships of folks in our office. We've built in some overtime because we've had an increase in the number of people showing up at 4:45, needing to seek orders to apprehend, which I won't bore you with the details, but that is a person who is in the community and is in crisis and needs an evaluation for mental health purposes. They seek an order from me requiring the sheriff to dispatch law enforcement to transport the person in crisis from the community to a medical provider. We do those if we're open. So if somebody shows up at 4:45, we do our best to do everything we can to get that taken care of, but it's increasing the number of overtime experiences, and we've never had a budget for overtime, and it's creating some challenges for us. So we would ask that that be built into our budget. Operating, I'm happy to go into this significantly with any of you offline or to collectively and answer any questions about it. I will tell you that there is one line that makes that proposed 23 number significantly increase. So let's dive in. Professional services. We would like to digitize our historical documents from microfilm. We have been digitizing and scanning records since very soon after I took office. Prior to me taking office, back to the 1980s or so, we were microfilming records, which was the height of technology. But when you remember going to college and high school, if you're me, and maybe middle school if you're me, but we won't talk about that, you remember sitting and going through the microfilm. We have one machine that we don't use enough that it's in good shape, but we use it enough that we have to pay for it to be fixed often. And we would like to get those records digitized so that they are available to the community for any historical genealogical searches, property searches, any other issues that people might have. That is $149,000 approximately just for the records that are currently preserved on microfilm but are not digitized yet. It's a significant expense. Doing all of our records through the unified case management system was going to cost just shy of $1 million. It was over $800,000. We parsed that out in an effort to be efficient. And that is a big one-time ask of nearly all of that $153,500. We're also asking for the ability to have a backup cleaning crew come in and do cleaning as necessary, given some of the considerations in our space. There are a number of these requested increases that are not actually increases because we collect the fee when folks apply for something or submit a petition. So this first line of printing is for weapons carry licenses. The applicants pay for that printing cost plus a fee to the county for the processing. So that's not an actual cost to the county, but we need it on the front end to fund those purchases. Accountable equipment. When we have new employees, we need to have technology bundles. Wi-Fi doesn't work in my office on the opposite side of my desk. So if anybody is in my office, we need a Wi-Fi booster. We believe we will need more labels, more label printers. We are opening a second courtroom, so we need some recording equipment as required by law. We need chairs for new employees. Those are the accountable equipment. Rental equipment is 2 new copiers for new spaces. It's for court-appointed attorneys and guardians ad litem required by law. This is a fee that is recovered from the petitioners in cases, so it's not an actual cost to the county, but we need it on the front end for our budget. Medical and dental services. This is for court-appointed evaluators, doctors, psychologists, and social workers for guardianship and conservatorship cases, which is required by law. Again, it's paid for by the petitioners, but we need it on the front end. Office supplies. This $7,000 is increased due to anticipated caseload increases. And additional labels and things that we are not entirely sure how the case management system might impact our work functions. Travel and training, if we have additional attorneys on staff, we need to train them. We need to make sure that they are legally fit and legally trained to meet the requirements of the Judicial Qualifications Commission, the training requirements particular to the probate counsel, and we also need our court administrator to be compliant and involved in order to learn of developments and proactively project what we can do to cost save and build in efficiencies and stay on top of legal developments and technology. We also anticipate that our chief clerk will be retiring within 5 years. So we're looking for training for potential successors to that position. The next one is a safety issue. We do not have bank service. We do not have armored truck pickup. We need it. We've asked for it for years. We looked into it at one point in time and did not do it. We need that. We've built it into the budget and hope you'll support the safety of our employees with it. Copy machine supplies, it's just paper and maybe some toner. Interpreters, this is a direct response to the Chief Justice's access to justice action. We need more interpreters. We are seeing more folks who are entitled to fully comprehend their interactions with the court in various ways. And we have asked for that increase based on the numbers we are seeing projected forward for the cases we expect. We're asking for cell phones with the increased work from home and other requirements, as well as the travel that we have to do for hearings away from the office and training. We're asking that vital personnel be afforded cell phone allowance to assist with their cell phones and to provide hotspots as necessary so that we can stay in touch with the office as necessary. Registration fees and memberships go along with the training that we're requesting for our additional personnel. Annual maintenance contracts are for our office stuff, our DECA, which is our recording system. If there are issues with that, we have to call them out. We have to pay for maintenance. Our timestamp recorder, that filed in stamp that is so important to attorneys and litigants, it breaks, and it breaks a lot. And in order to say hello to them, we have to pay a pretty penny. So that and our shredding with mental health and weapons carry licenses, we have highly confidential documents, and we need to handle those appropriately, and shredding is necessary for our customers and clients' safety and security. Uniforms. I've been in office for 12 years and I've worn the same robe for the last 12 years, pretty much every single day. It's never been dry cleaned unless I paid for it and took it. I've never gotten a replacement robe. And we are looking to have 3 judges. We would like for each of them to have a robe and for them to occasionally be dry cleaned. This is a build-in to most of the other judges' budgets, as I understand it, and we would think that it was appropriately an expense of the county. County service fees, when someone is allegedly stealing money from either an incapacitated adult or a child or from an estate, we have the responsibility and legal obligation to cite them. In order to cite them, we need to send the sheriff out to deliver service of process to them. Many of those people inconveniently have moved outside of Cobb County, so we have to pay other counties' service folks, either the sheriff or appointed folks, to get those people served. This is required by law. The numbers are increasing, both because of the volume of cases and conditions outside of people's control. So we're asking for an increase in that line item. General printing charges. This is our files that have case numbers on them, envelopes, other printed materials. Just due to increased caseloads, we anticipate that the numbers of each of these things will need to increase, and we're asking for an adjustment. Computer supplies, ink, paper, cartridges, paper for public access at the kiosk that we've made available that turns out to be very popular with the public, but it's a big drain on resources, so we're asking for an increase in supplies for that kiosk computer so that folks can come in and self-serve and hopefully limit some of the personnel costs that we require and the currently somewhat risky physical personal interactions. Miscellaneous minimal expenses. These are things like we need Adobe licenses and a notary and administrative programs that we've bulked into that number. This is our 2024 detail. That was our 2023. This is the reduction of the personal services without the microfilm to digitizing. So you can see that's a huge reduction year over year. We increase the number of printing because we anticipate, unless something changes in the legislative session, that weapons carry licenses will continue to increase. This year we did an extremely record number of 18,285 weapons carry licenses. Our previous record was last year, and that was just over 15,500. We normally run on a high year between 11 and 12,000. So 18,825 is, or 285, I apologize, is significantly higher than anything we could ever project in our budget preparations for this year and last year. Rental agreement is the same copiers, legal fees for the same court-appointed attorneys, advertising. These numbers for our appointed folks and legal notices, again, all offset by the filing fee revenue, but need to be part of our expense budget. These are all adjustments based on anticipated increases in caseloads. Office supplies, more cases means more service copies, means more paper, means more copier ink, all of those increases. And that's what's reflected there. And we've just carried over the budget increase for travel and training and memberships from year to year. Again, the bank's charges for armored truck escorts for our deposit, our copy machine, paper and supplies for our additional copiers. These are, again, increases that we just carried over for interpreters for increased numbers, and cell phones, registration, membership for increased numbers of attorneys in judicial and similar circumstances, and administrative leadership who need to stay in touch with the office. Annual contracts are for the service of our office supplies, uniforms. We show a purchase of robes in our last year budget in 2023. This year, we're just asking for them to be cleaned, and then increase again in our out-of-county services and general printing charges and miscellaneous expenses. Capital. Notice that we went from 0 and 0 to 215 to 0. That's because we are anticipating that we will hopefully be able to work with others in our area to take over at least some of the space in the basement. We've had incredibly helpful cooperative discussions with folks about utilizing some of the accountability administrative space when they deem it appropriate in ways that might work. These are gross estimates of our ability to take over that space for things like meeting space and other functions as necessary in order to accomplish our daily tasks and to do our job and do it safely with our coworkers. We have one office upstairs in our general work area that we need to finish out in order to fully house all of our supervisory staff so that they can do things like appraisals and have confidential conversations with their employees that they supervise behind closed doors instead of at cubicles. So we would ask that that $15,000 renovation be included in our 15 budget. I mean, our 2023 budget. That's it. That's my budget. That's what I have to say. I'm happy to take any of your questions.
Oh. Thank you, Judge Welk. I'm waiting for my video to return. Here we are. Thank you for that exhaustive presentation and walking us through just the general function of your office and role of it, as well as discussing your personnel, operational, and capital needs. There were some things that kind of caught my attention as you were speaking. One is always when we have our agencies compare budgets across the other 5 largest counties and hearing where we sit as far as resource levels. And so I can see some opportunity there when making that comparison. But also hearing about some of the needs, even just for some of the operational supplies, some of them it seems so basic to the function of the court. I know you're including them in your budget, but there seems to be opportunity to consider it within this year's budget. So I'll definitely have some conversation with our county manager with respect to that. And some of the things you listed, I know have been issues across other departments. So there could be some ways to leverage their experience or even some of their suppliers or connections. Particularly, again, something that stood out to me was the armored vehicle. Now that we've had that out here in the public, that's something I certainly would like to see us address ASAP, because that's a matter of safety.
And again, Judge Murphy and I have already communicated about consolidating that, and we have actively worked with Robin Bishop in things, and the tax commissioner has used our space. We have a great group of people, and we do try to work together when we can, and I am forever grateful to them and to you. But we are at a point where some things that are basic are now having to be part of this, and the significance of them can't go unsaid.
Understood, because they cost money, and so let's see what we can do. And again, there's just some other things like basic Wi-Fi, and I know our county manager is here, and some of the office build out could be some of the things that we consider with revenue above projections as you are continuing to have an increased workload, not just because of general population increase, but some of the impact just due to COVID. And I'm sure, as we know, our medical examiners had more burden on his office. Is you making us aware of your connection to his work, I think, helps us to realize the need to prioritize some of your requests. With that, commissioners, I was able to get some support from Aya, so I can see all of you. If any of you would like to weigh in, please just let me know. If you can just by a show of hand, and then feel free to go ahead and weigh in. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Just the typical ask with all of the other budgets, if we can have a PDF email to us.
Absolutely. I'll hand carry it over to you. I'll send it with your birthday cake, whatever I need to do.
That'll be great.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Chairwoman, I would just like to say, if there are low-hanging fruit, and we've talked about this, Judge Walk, that we can help you with like now, let's look at those items and go ahead and try to get some of those things done. I think when we were talking about your robe and not being clean, I think I told you to please go get those cleaned. And that we could take care of that, or uniforms or things like that you say that you need. Those are some things that I think that we can go ahead and take care of. I do recall at least one of those positions we started working on prior to Tony retiring. And I believe because of the amount of that particular position, we said we would bring that back via agenda. Is that right?
Yeah, and we are coordinating with Buddy Teasar and Mr. Volkman and Maria, who, please let me give a shout out to Maria Landuar, because I could not have done this with any modicum of sanity, which I know all of you already questioned, but I could not have done this without Maria. And Bill, whatever you're paying her, you need to give her more, because she's amazing and sweet and kind, and very good at her job. And so, yes, we have been working on that for a while. We have the agenda item prepped. I think I referenced it in my presentation that we will simultaneously we'll be doing a class and pay track, an agenda item track, and this budget track to try and make sure that we get all of those positions. If those are reclassified through class and pay and adjusted, they won't be part of our budget request. We'll keep you all apprised of all of that as those moving parts kind of flesh out and we know what still needs to be addressed.
Great. Thank you, Judge Walk, and thank you, Dr. McMorris.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions or comments regarding the presentation? Yes, Commissioner Burrow.
Hi, thank you, Judge Walk, for that very detailed presentation. I would just ask that Jimmy Giese keep us updated on any legislative bills that pass this year that affect probate court, one way or the other. So
We may be moving a lot of people from one side of the office to the other side of the office, depending on how some things shake out. We just don't know right now. So,
right.
yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Is there anyone else that has any comments or questions? Again, Judge Walk, thank you for your time today and for your excellent presentation. And we look forward to getting a copy of that and to helping to see what things we can address within this current budget.
Thank you all. Thank you for your time and good luck through all of this. And Commissioner Richardson, I hope you're feeling better. So y'all take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another presentation queued up from our tax commissioner. However, I do want to go back to our agenda. We did have a work session that was going to be around our mobility special purpose local option sales tax. That work session has been moved from today's agenda and just wanted to make that announcement prior to moving into this next presentation. With that, Commissioner Jackson, if you are queued up, you may feel free to go ahead when ready.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I am trying to share. Okay, there we go. Everything good? Can you see?
Certainly can. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So I wanted just to begin by officially giving a huge shout out to my leadership team, several of whom are on the call today, Chief Deputy Heather Walker and our Business Officer Luke Rector. And I just wanted to say on behalf of the men and women in our office, a huge, huge thank you to Madam Chairwoman and our district commissioners for your leadership and your patience in hearing budget needs from every agency and every office in this transparent manner. And it's something that I do not take lightly at all. And I want to thank you for that. Also, I'd like to acknowledge our county manager, finance, IS, property management, all of our county partners that we work with to service the great constituents of Cobb County and our stakeholders. And again, it's something that those relationships are something that I do not take lightly, especially when I talk to my colleagues around the state that don't enjoy those that teamwork within their counties. And so I do just want to acknowledge that. Our mission statement is, I think, somewhat simple, but I do just want to say the foundational pillars of our mission statement are accuracy, efficiency, innovation, and a professional workforce. So let's get down. What does the Tax Commissioner's Office really do? And as most of you know, and for the background of anybody watching this presentation, the Tax Commissioner's Office, as Judge Walk mentioned, is one of 4 constitutional county officers. We provide independence and separation from the governing authorities, the school boards, or special entities that determine and spend taxes. We are responsible for every phase of ad valorem taxes for real, personal, mobile homes, heavy duty, and public utility properties. Our property division processes and audits homestead exemptions, and we work very closely with the Cobb Tax Assessor's Office and Cobb IS to produce our annual tax digest. After that digest is produced, we then bill, collect, disperse funds, as well as participate in numerous audits and reporting requirements. Our motor vehicle division serves as an agent of the state, and we are essentially most things motor vehicles, which includes titling, registration, decals, license plates, handicap placards, as well as we are the enforcing agents of insurance and emissions compliance. And again, both divisions are subject to audits and reviews by internal and external auditors from all authorities. So first thing first, let's just take a look at the money. Here's a 5-year summary of the money that has flowed through our office. And these dollars include base taxes, penalties, interest, fees, commissions, everything. Again, every dollar, every dime that flowed through our office, and it is based on a calendar year for each of the years presented here. I want to also show just how we touch each one of our shared constituents. And this chart shows that in a given year, and this was for last year, we had over 1 million customer contacts in this office. And the systems that we use to track these contacts only track completed processed transactions. So therefore, these numbers are somewhat underreported because they do not include customer interactions such as car dealer issues, escalated issues, requests for information, or customers that come in with incomplete information and therefore have to interact with us multiple times. So I do estimate that this number is probably underreported by at least 10%. I'm sure my managers will probably say more, but I'll stick with 10% underestimated. But these are actual real customer transactions that we can tie back to a dollar amount that was dispersed. So let's look at some of the largest contributors of our disbursements. And so we'll start, kind of give you an operational overview and starting with our motor vehicles. As of last week, there were 676,000 active registered vehicles in Cobb County. And so let me say that again. It's almost 1 for every man, woman, and child in Cobb. But, and that is as of last week. And just to give you an idea of the complexity of what we, our frontline have to deal with, there are over 400 valid license plate types that are in production and that we may issue throughout the year. So again, this is just to put it in perspective, we are the 3rd largest county in terms of vehicles in the state of Georgia. As we look high level at our property taxes, which again are a huge driver in that $1 billion that flows through our offices, we have over 286,000 real and personal parcels. And so that's that doesn't include our other role types such as mobile homes or heavy duty or public utility, just real and personal property, real and personal parcels. In this county, we have over 147,000 county exemptions. These numbers are based on the 2021 digest. To date, we have collected over $900 million. And as you can see here, we still have 18 million outstanding. Back in November, we sent out just under 17,000 late notices. But with that, I am proud to say that we have over a 98% collection rate on real and personal property as of December 31st. So just a little bit, you may not realize that in addition to our 5 staffed locations, we have 8 kiosk locations. And I'm very proud of our kiosk locations and our, I guess, position with the kiosk. And I'll just say this, due to our reputation for accuracy and innovation, the Georgia Department of Revenue selected Cobb to be their test site, to be the test site for their first ever kiosk in the state of Georgia. And we are still a leader in the rollout of this motor vehicle kiosk initiative with the state. Service is at the heart of what we do operationally. And I did want to take a moment just to share with you our Google reviews. And so, and also highlight that recently we've received the Tyler Public Sector Excellence Award in recognition of our leadership and organizational efficiency and innovation. Additionally, we are constantly recognized by our colleagues as a standard against which they benchmark their offices. And again, here are recent screenshots of our Google reviews for each of our staffed locations. And we do look through those Google reviews, and I want to share with you that approximately 80% of our less than 4-star review comments are in reference to long wait times. And that is, you know, a customer service issue, and you'll hear more about that as I go through my presentation. But we are proud of our Google reviews, but we do have some offices that have exceptionally long wait times, particularly the Austell office and somewhat with the North Marietta office, the office on Canton Road. I'll just jump right into our challenges. And just like you just heard from Judge Walken, you've heard from, I'm pretty sure, just about every agency or office that's come before you. Recruitment and retention is our top challenge. Unfortunately, in our office, this leads to a sad and vicious cycle of staff burnout, morale issue, and those longer service times that we talked about. And with those longer service times, adds in or brings an element of customer frustration. So then when you take those long wait times, customer frustration, and then just the thought of taxes, fines, and late fees, it in some cases is not a good situation. In addition to reviews on Google or Yelp, we sometimes sometimes leads to escalated situations with our constituents. And so just like many before me, this is my number one priority, our team recruitment and retention. I do want to highlight with our vacancies, we have over 20 vacant positions that we simply cannot fill with, quite frankly, with the salaries that we are offering and the work that we require them to do and the standards that we require them to meet. That is our biggest struggle. Next on the list is our technology. And I would just simply ask you to support Kimberly Limley's request for COBIS. I believe she had in there dedicated resource for our tax billing and collection software, as well as resources for our security cameras and QN applications. And that is so critical to what we need. And those systems are critical to our effective and safe operations. The other thing that I would mention too with our technology, the challenges, and I had mentioned this earlier, as an agent of the state for motor vehicle, the state dictates the technology and the systems that we use to administer motor vehicle. But then we are forced to figure out how that technology, that mandated technology, interacts with our county technology, and that is something that in many cases we have no control over. We have to make it work. The third thing, or the third largest challenge that we have, is our facilities, either new larger facilities or expand existing facilities, particularly at Kemp Ridge and at Austell. Additionally, we are hoping, we have our fingers crossed that when Elections moves to their new home, we will have an expansion here at our Whitlock office. The other thing, in addition to the actual building or facility itself, is the space within the facilities. And currently our frontline team members that service our constituents are crammed in pretty small cubicles. And I'll just show you, just so you can get a feel for this. Our current cubicle design does not accommodate all the equipment and technology that we are required to use on a day-to-day basis. And you can see these are just different cubicles from various offices where literally they're forced to, maybe prop their feet up on a printer that's printing out decals, or it just doesn't accommodate the monitors and again, the scanners and all the current technology that we are required to use. I will say that Sharon and her property management team are aware of most of our needs, and I do know that they have included some of our needs in their master list, and definitely ask your consideration of their request. Similar to Judge Walk, if you look at that the picture on the bottom, we just create space for, that's actually a supervisor's workspace. We just create space just about in every little nook and cranny that we can in each of our offices, and expect our staff to work with excellence and operate in excellence under those conditions. Here's my list of priorities, and I think they're pretty self-explanatory, but I would just, again, I can't stress enough the whole recruitment and retention, and to a lesser degree, development of our staff. And to be honest, until we address those issues, our other priorities will, I just don't think that our other priorities can be fully recognized and achieved until we address those issues with our staff. And you will hear me say, and we say in our team meetings oftentimes hashtag staffing. And that is, if I could just leave you with one message for you to remember, it is hashtag staffing. The other top priority for this office is service delivery. And I tell my team we're one office, but the goal is that we would have 5 full service locations. Right now, we have 2 full service locations, Whitlock and East Cobb. And it is my desire that the citizens that go to all of our locations should be able to conduct any tax business at any location. And so that is definitely a top priority. And then we have got to continue with our innovation. There's no way that just over 100 positions can continue to service our almost 800,000 customers and all of our vehicles and our grow and digest. There's no way we can service that level of constituency without innovation. And so that is something real big in my office, and hopefully we can gain your support in that endeavor. And along with those continued innovation, I firmly believe that we need to be able to measure the service that we provide. And so that's what I mean by the key performance indicators as well as our service metrics. And then, of course, with the money that we handle, with the transactions that we handle in terms of motor vehicle titling and registrations, with the credit card information, the sensitive information, we have got to stay on top of our internal controls and compliance. So let's get down to the core of this, the purpose of this meeting. My budget request is I'm looking for an increase in personnel, operating, and capital categories to the tune of about 13% in FY23, and then a slight decrease, a 6% decrease in FY24. And so let's just kind of dive in and see what's kind of driving the numbers behind this request. So we'll start with personnel, and our org chart is a little bit simpler than Judge Walt's, but what you have there are our motor vehicle division, our property tax division, our accounting and treasury operations, our business services, and then our support services. And what you'll see on the next slide, I'm asking for 3 positions. 2 would go in the front lines on motor vehicle down in the green, with 1 additional in delinquent collections. And so if we drill down on the personnel, the cost of the personnel increase that I'm asking is essentially a $251,000 increase in FY23 for 3 additional staff. And then that would be flat in FY24. And if you just look at the number, the top line, essentially what I'm asking for proposed in 23 is what was adopted in 21. And again, just to break this down just a little bit, I'm talking about 3 positions at an all-in cost of around $72,000 per position, which includes salary, fringes, and that whole technology bundle setup, if you will. Additionally, I'm asking for an increase in overtime of $35,000. We have expanded our hours, our public hours, a few years back. And so when we expanded our public hours to 8 to 5, that meant that a lot of training and inventory reconciliation and balancing and that type of thing needs to happen before 8 or after 5. Additionally, like Judge Walk, we have some locations that literally, I think, buses unload at 4:30. And so those employees cannot, they're not going to leave after 8 hours. They're going to be there until every customer is serviced. Right now, we have a policy that we do not lock our doors until 5 o'clock. Some of my colleagues, that varies depending on the flow of traffic, and they could lock their doors as early as 4 or what have you. But in our office, we adhere to our published hours of 8 to 5. And so, again, that is the reason for some of the increase in overtime. And again, just my general justifications for this personnel is increased customer wait times, the increased volume and complexity of motor vehicle transactions. Every year there is legislation that affects motor vehicle, and we just wait with bated breath to hear what they come up for us each year. Also, we have increased parcels and exemptions on the tax digest. And then, as I mentioned before, given the volume of transactions and the amount of money that flows through our office, we need to definitely make sure that our compliance internal controls are on point and that we keep our collection rates high. Moving to operating, that 45% increase is, I don't think it's as bad as it looks, but we are asking for just under $300,000 increase in operating. And quite frankly, we have experienced just an across-the-board increase in just about all of our operating line items. And I won't bore you with going line by line by line, but what I will say is that for the past few years, we have really been juggling and just robbing Peter to pay Paul by moving funds around from personnel to operating. So if we have a vacant position, but we're going over in postage, we've been moving funds around. And I do think it's time that we true up our actual budget to what our expenses are. I will remind you, when I mentioned that we had over, I think it was 667,000 registered vehicles in Cobb. That means that every month we're sending out in the neighborhood of 50 to 60,000 renewal notices. Those renewal notices, there's a cost to that. Every year we're mailing out over 250,000 tax bills. There's a cost to that, as well as our late notices. Just this past year, we had just under 17,000 late notices, and there's a cost for that. And so just on general supplies and printing, I'm asking for an increase of 88,000. And I will just say this, just a reminder that on our motor vehicle, the types of printers that we have to have by the states, they gave us two choices, printer A or printer B. But we had to pay for those printers, and we also have to provide the ink that goes in those printers that prints all those decals out, and as well as all of our temporary operating permit. Again, that's why that increase of 88,000 just in general supplies and printing. With accountable items, I'm looking at about a $16,000 increase, and that would include things like our scanners and so forth. In the area of professional services, that includes, and one thing I didn't talk about, when I mentioned that we had our high vacancy rate, we have used temporary staffing agencies to help fill the gap for us on some of our entry-level position. We've also used consultants to help fill the gap for us. And I do think that that is just going to be an ongoing reality. And so I do think that it would be prudent to go ahead and budget accordingly for that. I'm asking for about $35,000 in IT subscriptions and maintenance. And what that is, we use a software or service, LexisNexis, that helps us find, if you will, it helps with our, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. It helps with our delinquent collections, let me say it that way. And in cases of homestead audits, LexisNexis also helps with that. We have a cashiering system, we have scanning software, as well as system enhancements for our billing, tax billing and collection system. And so that's what that increase is for. The next item of postage, I will say that we have probably had at least 3 to 4 postage increases without us adjusting our budget for postage. And again, we've covered it from vacancies, but I don't think that is a good way to operate going forward. And so that's what that increase in postage represents. And then lastly, training, travel, and just training classes. Again, when we have that staff turnover, that drives our training cost up. Additionally, legislative changes and any of our system changes, particularly the ones that are dictated to us from the Department of Revenue, requires training. And we do need to ensure that our staff maintain a high level of knowledge. I'm just trying to see. I think that is most of the largest portions of what makes up that $290,000 increase in operating. Moving forward to capital, we are looking for the majority of that. Let me go to the next slide. The majority of that increase, so we're proposing $565,000 in FY 2023, and then $25,000 in FY 24. And the majority of this is for facility renovations that may not be included in what property management is asking for. And I'm speaking specifically of the Whitlock office, and then we have got to do something with the office on and I call it South Cobb, but my Austell Road office. We've got to do something to address our service delivery down there. And so that is a one-time capital request of $500,000. I'm also asking for a new vehicle. And actually, what I am proposing is that we would actually trade in 2 of our existing vehicle to get 1 upgraded vehicle. We are required by Georgia Code to physically post properties before we can proceed down with a tax sale. And that means that we need to be out, and literally, if you see those big day-glow orange signs on a property or on your neighbor's property with my name on it, that is what we're doing. And so to me, it's imperative that my team members, as they're riding the county, that they're in safe vehicles. And additionally, because we literally are posting, they are carrying supplies in those vehicles as well, that we're required to show evidence that we went through the proper steps in posting those properties. And so that is the reason for that vehicle. And then $25,000 for security, and that is specifically for our surveillance cameras. We have, because of the nature of our transactions, we require, and the volume of our transactions, we require a fair amount of storage, if you will, of our surveillance footage. And so that is what that 25,000 would be to cover that. And again, that will be ongoing. We've been talking with CABIS. Perhaps at some point that might go away if, we can take advantage of a countywide solution, or we're in a countywide solution, but if we could get our storage needs adjusted under there. But for now, I think we're looking at about $25,000 to cover that. And then essentially that is all I have, but I will just ask you to really remember these 6 points. I don't envy you all at all as you try to prioritize the budget ask that everybody has brought before you. But I will just ask you just to remember the dollar amounts that flow through this office and the fact that we do touch over 1 million customers annually. I think when you put that in perspective with a 13% increase in FY 23 and a 6% increase in FY 24, or a decrease actually, I think that kind of puts that in perspective. And then I guess my clarion call, if you will, is #staffing. We have got to address our recruitment and our retention. We can't operate anything in the county, but we can't operate in my office without our staff. And we just can't keep expecting our current staff to cover our existing shortages at their current compensation levels. I will say that my employees are excited and confident in the board support of the current pay and class study. And we're looking forward to seeing where that goes in terms of addressing our minimum salaries. And with that, I'll entertain any questions or comments.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that robust presentation and in walking us through the role and responsibility of your office. As you spoke about the numbers of people that you serve and the level of resources that go into it, I know that, we're to walk away with that phrase of #staffing, but I appreciate the emphasis on level of service. And that's what I heard being communicated throughout your presentation, particularly in you looking at the number of sites that you have and trying to provide the same level of service across all of your sites, and taking to heart the amount of wait times that constituents have. Everything, I think, is driven by us being able to serve the citizens to the best of our ability. And I think you hit that home with your presentation. Again, even though we learned a lot that's unique to your organization, that's the recurring theme that we're hearing a lot throughout the presentations, is just the need for additional staff, issues of recruitment, retention, and being able to also develop your employees. Something that I thought was low-hanging fruit, and again, Dr. McMorris, with this presentation and with the others, there are some capital requests or some one-time requests, and we may have opportunity, commissioners, to address that with our revenue above projections, as some of those things may be able to help with increasing service delivery, like you talked about technology and how that can help. But at the end of the day, there's technological resources and there's human resources to be able to provide the service level that people expect. And so before we get to even the budget decision we make, there could be some opportunity for us to begin to address a lot of the things that you shared.
Thank you.
You're welcome. One thing I do want to commend you on too, before I turn things over to commissioners, is even with the amount of people that you do serve and some of the challenges you address, I have personally experienced nothing but excellence when it comes to customer service at the tax commissioner's office. And I have, periodically received feedback. I've never received a negative comment unless somebody had a particular issue with their taxes. But I've have heard, received comments about just how your employees treat citizens. And so if you can pass that along to your team, that they've
Thank
done
you.
an excellent
Yes.
job of how they interact with the public. I'd appreciate that. With that, commissioners, do you have any questions? Yes, Commissioner Burrow.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you to Carla for her excellent service. I too have been a recipient and experienced firsthand how excellent the customer service is at her office. So thank you. And you know who I'm talking about specifically. But I've always heard good things too. And appreciate your staff and all that you do, you and Heather. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Yes, Commissioner
I-
Sheffield.
Carla, you mentioned that there is a delay in the South and West Cobb offices. Have you been able to identify what the issue is? Is it that you're short staff, or is there something else that needs to be addressed?
So part of it was being short staffed, and even when we kind of cheat a little bit and pull staff from other offices to make sure that we have every window staffed in those offices, it's just the volume of people. And I'm looking now, even when we are fully staffed, it's just the volume of people along with the complexity of their transactions. So, we're not talking necessarily about somebody just coming in and needing a $20 decal. We try to encourage those people to go to the kiosk, but these are people that just have ownership issues. They have specialty tags, etc. And it's just the sheer volume of customers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As far as capacity at that site, I know we had expanded that at least while I've been here. Is space a continuing concern in that location?
It is. And Madam Chairwoman, thank you for having the vision to lead that expansion down there. And we did add, I want to say we added like 4 or 5 booths down there and expanded our lobbies. And I don't know where the population, I don't know where the people come from, but they just keep coming and they just keep coming. And we've looked at, the front office up there that used to have community. We have looked and we talked with Tanks before he retired about if we could put almost like an auxiliary office or something up there. And it would be a little disjointed, but just the sheer volume of transactions in the South Cobb area. We keep up, we're struggling to keep up with, let me just say that. And they do experience the longest wait times.
Yeah, thank you. I know Commissioner Sheffield, we had more services that were tied to public services at that site, the government center. And I think that has been modified, Commissioner Jackson. I don't know if are we still providing those government services there or
The Government Service Center is still up there, and that's a good point, Commissioner. For our basic, if you will, transactions, we send overflow to them up there, so they help. So they're augmenting our staff down there, and it's
okay, that's why.
yeah.
Now, I know Commissioner Sheffield had a vision of seeing expanded governmental services in District 4, and this data may help to underscore the need for that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner Richardson.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up. It was similar to what you were asking, Chairwoman. But potentially there is some type of breakdown of service by type. Maybe there is an overexpression of certain services, since you mentioned complexity. And potentially we could solve for that service and it might remediate the issue. So maybe there's a ranking by service, and it might be good to see that across all of the two locations. And how that's split.
Yeah, and so I do know, and we have looked at that a little bit, and we can dive into that more for you, Commissioner. But it's those complex transactions, the title transactions, that are the I don't want to say the killers, but are the big. They're not going to be at our window and out of our in a minute or two. I mean, they're going to take longer. So that is a key function that we see a lot of in that office, is a lot of title transactions, probably second only to our commercial location, which is on Canton Road.
Got it. Okay. So then, if we already have an idea of
Yes.
what service is overexpressed, then we may want to just key in on that service directly.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner Richardson. Are there any other questions or comments from commissioners? Thank you again, Commissioner Jackson. We really appreciate, again, the exhaustive presentation that you had. It was quite informative, and we look forward to seeing how we can assist with you providing the service levels that are desired from our constituents.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we are moving on to our final presentation. I believe we have Robin Bishop here with State Court. I can't see you across my screen, but if you are here, by all means, please get started whenever you are ready.
Thank you.
Right.
I'm here. So
Okay, very good. There you are.
okay, so I wanted to go through our presentation, but first I wanted to thank you all for this opportunity. This is exhausting, I'm sure, and we appreciate the willingness for you guys to listen in quite a lot of detail to everything we need. We appreciate the collaboration, and also want to say our invitation is always open to our neighbors here in the Commission building, anybody that wants to come over and visit our court or right next door. I want to thank my colleagues for presenting earlier this morning, this afternoon, Judge Walk, and the Tax Commissioner, Carla Jackson. They're, as you know, constitutional officers, but the State Court Clerk's Office is not. We are locally created. I've learned so much from these budget presentations, and I'm just thankful that we have an opportunity to learn from each other and learn how we can better collaborate. Our mission statement is to perform all the record-keeping functions of the State Court as prescribed by law and court rules with accuracy and efficiency. We also provide the highest quality service to the public, attorneys, and the court in processing of traffic, misdemeanor, and civil case filings. To be future-focused and just one second, I think my screen is having trouble sharing.
Sure, we're with you.
Do that before we get going.
No problem.
Okay, there we go.
Yep.
Everybody see that?
Yes, we got it.
Okay, great. That was our mission I just read, and okay. That was the mission we just read, and we're going to go over each of these in our future slides on how our organization meets that mission. We're much like probate, that there are legal requirements that we have to do to keep this record, and we want to make sure that we adhere to all those that are legislated by law that we have to take care of. The next slide here is our management team. And this was really the only picture we all have together that was created in July of 2020. At the beginning of the pandemic, this team was formed. Our office has mandated functions that we have to be on site, and this team carried those on-site functions for much of that time during the pandemic and supported our employees in doing that as well. We've added 2 supervisors and lost some from promotions, and that's 1 to a judge's office, and we consider it a high compliment that out of the 5 of the 12 judges in our court, 5 of them have former employees that were with our office on their staff now. Also, to note, the chief deputy was also newly appointed, but a 22-year employee of our office, Rochelle Taylor, who is with me today. I wanted to thank her, our accounting division manager, Lynn Hall, and our executive assistant, Marshall Bedford, for helping to put this presentation together. Also, the many calls to our management team that we placed to ask for these numbers to present to you today. At the bottom of the screen, we have a quote. We have a yearly theme in our office, and we made this theme for our 2021 year, and we're still contemplating our 2022 theme because we're a little worried about what might come out of the gates. But our theme was, whatever comes out of these gates, we have a better chance of success if we work together. And that team right there and our other teams that you'll see later have really worked together to make that happen. Our next slide shows our actual org chart as it stands now. Just to note on this chart, each clerk that you see mainly down there in the purple, they're sworn in for each clerk's term, and all of them are represented there by numbers and their title. Our friends in the probate court keep those sworn in documents. So as each deputy clerk is sworn in, their oath of office goes with ours, just like all the other offices over to probate court, and those are sworn deputy clerks of our office. It gives them the ability to record and sign records in our office. It also gives them the ability to represent us in the courtroom, to support the judges, and also to docket and keep the record. This org chart can't explain the heart of our office. These people that are represented here are the heart of our office, and they're the most impacted by any merit increases that come out. They're the most impacted about the Evergreen study, and we, like many others, are excited about that study. And we are so looking forward to seeing what happens for our people out of that. These people have kept our office staffed throughout the pandemic, and there's things that happen that have to happen that are mandated, like cash bonds, warrant issuing, recalling warrants, and they have done that. I wanted to personally thank the men and women of the State Court Clerk's Office to make all the slides that you're going to see possible. And on the top, you'll see, and this goes into the transition that we're going to talk about a little bit here, the boxes that have the court support managers. Those 4 division managers represent over 108 years of service to the citizens of this county. And our court support supervisors represent 80 years of service to the constituents of this county. Combined, collectively, our management team has over 250 years of service to the people in our community, and they are dedicated. If you'll see there, you'll see there are 3 pillars that we always talk about to those new clerks that are sworn in, and we talk about customer service, accuracy, and efficiency to all of them. And one of the things we say to each deputy clerk that's sworn in is we say to them, a case file is not just a file. It is someone's life right then. Sometimes their court case is the most important thing that's going on in their lives. And we tell them all customer service is foremost in their daily activity, because that can be the most important thing going on for them. It's somebody's mother, brother, sister, cousin, friend, neighbor, and it could impact anybody. Anybody in this county could be in the state court clerk's office. So we tell them that when they're sworn in. We also talk about accuracy and efficiency. Those are the three things that we always talk to each new deputy clerk about. The next slide here, you'll see our 4 divisions and what happens in those divisions. As you saw on that previous slide, there were the division managers. Our criminal division, we process and docket everything that comes into our court, whether it's a minor traffic offense, a traffic case, a misdemeanor case. We transmit all of that information that is codified in the way we should do for that and with the time frame that we're supposed to do that to GCIC, the Georgia Crime Information Center. We also transmit information to DDS, the Department of Driver Services, of anything that happens on somebody's license or points on their license to submit any kind of traffic offense. We also seal criminal records in that division, and that's very detailed because we also have to reach out to those state agencies to make sure those things are sealed there as well. And I know the commission put a notation in their accomplishments that work together with so many departments in the judiciary to open the Second Chance desk. And since we've been working with that desk in July, we've sealed an additional, on top of what we usually do, 113 cases. And because what happens is once all these other agencies take care of that sealing, our office is then responsible to actually seal the record itself and take care of that record. Our civil division that you see there on the other side, the civil division processes lawsuits, garnishments, dispossessory, and that's a very limited number. I think one year we had like 70 because most of those go through the magistrate court's office, and you've heard about that and the programs for those through Judge Murphy's presentation previously. We also calendar court notices for all civil cases. If there's a civil case, let's say it's a medical malpractice and it maybe lasts over several years, those clerks, those deputy clerks calendar those cases, send out court notices, and there are deputy clerks assigned to each one of our 12 judges' posts. We also, in that division, process the school bus stop arm infractions because they're considered civil infractions. And that division sends out court notices. Bottom left there, you'll see the courtroom deputy division. Those are the clerks team that are assigned in the courtroom. If you've seen on TV, you'll see a person sitting to the right or to the left of a judge, depending on the courtroom, mainly if you're looking straight on to the right. And that courtroom clerk keeps up with all of the process paperwork for the record during a trial. They work very closely with the judge's office team, the sheriff's office, the solicitor's office, the public attorneys, and so forth that come into our courtroom as they operate. We have to have a courtroom clerk in each courtroom for any case that happens within our court, whether it's in person or virtual. We have a continuance counter for cases that can't be completed that same day for that division. They go out into an area for some reason. If a patron cannot finish their case that day in the criminal division of our court, they'll go out to get their case continued by that counter. That team has a record services team, and they initiate all the new cases that come in, whether from a warrant or an accusation or from the RMS system that sends traffic tickets over to us. That team initiates those cases. They also answer phones, and I think this is a fun fact to know that we did an average of how many people call in. If you get a citation on your ticket or a new case number on the back, it'll tell you you can call this number for assistance. And in person, we answer constituent calls of up to 56,163 a year. That's our average. So many of those people are answering calls all day, every day, and doing it in a very professional manner. Our accounting division, they collect the fines and fees for traffic, misdemeanor, and for probation, restitution, and balance. Also, our civil filings. There's 5 teller windows that service the public, and they assist those customers all day, every day, as they come out of each of the 12 courtrooms. There are 12 courtrooms because there are 12 judges in the state court, and we not only supply the courtroom clerks for them, we also take care of the customers as they come out of the courtroom to pay their fine or fee. We also balance an escrow. There's several things that we have to have in escrow by a code section of how the monies are kept in separate operated. We also collect and balance and disperse mandated funds. And there's several different mandated fees. We have a monthly distribution of those funds and fees to state agencies. There are 16, are you ready for that? 16 legislatively mandated surcharge payments to state agencies and the general fund for fines and fees. And our accounting division does an excellent job with keeping up with those. And we also track legislation closely on those. The screen that you see here is a fun picture. Our incentive committee did this collage for 2018, and everything you saw on the previous slides and you'll see on the future slides are done by the men and women depicted in these pictures. These were happy and more consistent times. The last couple of years have been trying on the court system, and we were also fully staffed at this time. Staffing, we're averaging about 8 to 11 positions down over the last year and a half. On this screen that you see, some of these people have left us for bigger and better paying things. Some have retired, some have been promoted within our court. And I just want you to know that those faces, those people are people that I care about deeply, and their commitment and dedication really drives everything we do. And I can't say enough about them. The next screen you see is, this is our required reporting. We have to report every year on an annual basis, and we're working on our 2021 stats right now to the Georgia Administrative Office of the Courts. And if you look here, you'll see there's so many case types that we handle. And I think what's important to understand about the clerk's office in looking at these case types is that when the case is filed in, during the life of the case, and when the case is disposed, and then keeping that record for the record retention that is required, sometimes 10 years and sometimes 20 years for those records. We are involved in every aspect of that case. While some other court departments maybe see or touch the case a couple of times, we're responsible for keeping that record all the way through the life of that case. So if you look, and I'm showing you our 2018 and 2019 numbers because we feel like those numbers will best reflect what we're asking for in our budget proposal for 23 and 24. So if you look at the 2018 numbers coming in, we had filed a total of 59,955 cases and disposed 53,562 cases. And then for 2019, we had 62,007 cases that were filed and 58,041 cases that were disposed. And I think what's important, again, to note about those is that we are involved in every part of that case. We initiate it on the front end. We handle the dockets as the cases are filed into by all the parties in the case. We handle notice to all the parties that are involved in this case for any court date or court date changes. And I'll be honest, there's been a lot of court date changes over the last couple of years. We handle, once that case is disposed, we handle every aspect of closing that case out. And like I said, the retention of that record further on. And like I said before, these aren't just numbers. These are our constituents that have real serious issues that come before our court that we are trying to assist them and work through for them. As the previous slide indicated, we are a high volume court, and the numbers of what we do are driven to us. The clerk doesn't drive those numbers, meaning we can't initiate our own cases. We can't accuse our own cases. We can't issue a warrant. We take in what comes to us. That has a lot to do with how many police officers are on the road. It has a lot to do with how many investigators are out there. It has a lot to do with how many solicitors are there, how many judges we have. And it also has a great deal to do with what is closed out on the end and how fast those are closed out as well. And we are reactive to that. This is our key performance measures, which has been a part of the county budget for years. I think it's amazing to think about what we did in 21-22. If you look at those 21-22 numbers, our our team had a total number of docket entries of over 600,000 in 2021 and 591,000 in 2022. We project that to be very close to what it is in 2023, 24, as court cases start moving a little bit more. Docket entries per day, and when I say docket, that means the record itself. So if somebody files a motion into a civil case or somebody issues a bench warrant into a criminal case, we have to note that on the record and make that record available to the public. So that's how many we're averaging as a number per day. In the bottom, you'll see our workload measures. This is a total number of accounting transactions per year. A lot of those are in person and a lot of those are online. You're looking at anywhere from 56,000 over to what we project is 62,000 in 2024. Total number of images and page scanned per year. A lot of our record keeping has to do with scanning, and we have increased that exponentially as we've moved from, and I've heard some other people mention it, microfilm to digital to real-time scanning, because what we try to do is follow the documents that come into the case for the life of the case. We work to issue failure to appear bench warrants and license suspensions, and those stay steady in the 5,000s every year. But this part speaks directly to one of our mission statement items, which is to perform all the record-keeping functions of the state court as prescribed by law and court rules with accuracy and efficiency. Going to our next part of our mission, where we say we'd like to provide the highest quality of service to the public, to the attorneys, and to the court. We wanted to let you know we've done so much to accomplish that with a lean staff and with a pandemic raging around us. Our accomplishments that we keep up with in our office, we have a shared drive, and we keep up with any accomplishments that we do through a fiscal or a budget year, and it's incredible to see the work that's done by the men and women of our office. And the accomplishments in 2021 that we felt like hit this mission item the most was adding our stop arm case types to Court Connect. Court Connect is our public-facing web that allows customers to view our stop arm cases online. We began criminal e-filing to alleviate some of the building capacity issues during the pandemic. To better assist our customers, we began uploading return service via our e-filing system so they could see that return service for cases online. We put our criminal division on an IVR system, and that system helps the customers get to the right in-person answer of their call every day. We never want to miss that in-person chance to help our constituents. The next mission item is to be future-focused in technological advancements to ensure the integrity of our record and provide the accessibility to the information that's in our office and in the record. And some of the things we've done in 21-22 to do that is we completed several system interfaces with IS to secure the record for the upcoming UCCMS project. The UCCMS project, as I think Judge Walk mentioned in her presentation, is the Unified Court Case Management System. It's been a long-going project, but there's several things we need to finish and clean up and make sure.
Excuse me, Robin, if you can hear me while your screen is sharing, we've had a technical issue in seeing and hearing you. So if you are speaking, I will let you know when we can see and hear you again. Right now, we can't. Right now, it looks to seem as if our screens have been frozen while you're sharing content. Okay, I now see the screen, Robin, and I see you.
Okay, I'm sorry. You were coming in and out a little bit too. I think somebody
Okay.
had lost us here. So I think we
And on
need to
my
figure
end.
out where we were on the
I just
presentation. And I think maybe we got to in our accomplishment list when we talked about things with our cleanup. Okay, can everybody hear me and see the accomplishments list in relation to our mission on technology?
Yes, we can hear you and see. Robin, can you hear?
I kind of, Chairwoman.
It might be on my end.
She hear you? Just 1 second, okay?
Okay. Can you hear me, Robin?
Chairwoman, I'm in a adjoining conference room and Kimberly Lemley just stepped in there to help her. So I think it's a bandwidth issue, so they're working on it right now.
Thank you. For anyone else who can hear me, if the general public can hear me, please bear with us as we try to address this technical issue. Again, for anyone who is here with us virtually, please bear with us. We are addressing some technical issues at this time.
Sorry about that. Can you hear us now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, we had some sort of issue with the connectivity in here.
No problem. It happens.
Just give us a couple more minutes, please.
Thank you. Will do. Again, for anyone who's here with us virtually, thank you for being patient with us as we work through our technical issues.
Incoming.
We're going to leave the meeting just for a second and rejoin. So hold tight, please.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, can you hear us and see the PowerPoint?
Certainly can. I'm glad you're back with us. Again, for those of you who are with us, we had some technical issues, but we are now resuming the presentation of our state court clerk, Robin Bishop.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Cupid. I wanted to thank IS. They have me in a very nice room here, and they helped us work through it. Looks like we lost all connectivity on the computer we're using, and they came in and fixed that very quickly for us. So if there's anything in our presentation that we might need to go back over, you guys hold me to it, keep me honest, and I'll see what I can do to answer any questions. I think we were on our technology mission item, which is to be future focused in technological advancements and ensure the integrity of the record and provide accessibility to information in our office. And we think the ways that we've done that in 2020 and 2021 is I went through the system interfaces earlier and the judge reassignments. That is very tedious and complicated. We work heavily with the information services team to do that because we have to literally change the case count for each judicial post, not only just in paper, but online as well, and in all of our dockets to make sure that those cases are moved over smoothly. We adapted to virtual hearings when we had them, and we also, during the pandemic, helped to provide evidence collection when it was needed and the technology to do so in a digital fashion. We've had to be very agile, and I'm proud of the team for doing what they've done during that time. We created what we call a CPAY event in our case management system, and that helps keep payables online and allows customers more time to pay their fines and fees. Throughout the pandemic, there's been a lot of changes of case calendars and changes made in the system to keep us afloat. And one of the things we've tried to do is keep that open for people so that they have a little bit more time to take care of those fines and fees. Our challenges and improvements. So just like everybody, and I hate to be redundant, but we've had staffing levels that have been hard to meet our service demand from ever-changing legislative requirements. We, like many others in the court system, are mandated to do so much of what we do. And when that legislation changes and it has to be done, like let's say it goes through the session and it's upon signature type of bill that's signed in, let's say, March, and you have to be agile and change your processes. And we want to be able to meet the needs of our constituents when those legislative changes come into play, because a lot of times it impacts their record. We've had barriers to efficient service delivering, staffing, and technology. And part of what I'm reiterating later in my slides here is we like to keep and maintain the service delivery that we give because customer service is so important, but also with technology. The last case management upgrade that the courts had was in the late 90s, and we have to be efficient and agile, and we have some recommendations on how to help us do that and help our team and information services to do that as well. The last challenge we're going to talk about is meeting all the time requirements mandated by that legislation and state requirements while dealing with case scheduling and issues and integrating new technologies. Our court caseload, whether the courts are virtual, in person, or whatever happens, those day-to-day 8 to 5 mandated services never changes. But sometimes legislation and state requirements come down that make us have to deal with those in a way that we weren't prepared to. And we have to integrate all of those changes and take care of scheduling cases and integrate new technologies at the same time. And while I feel that we are fantastic at multitasking in our office, it's difficult sometimes to do that. So let's get right to it. In the budget itself, we are asking to help us keep up with that mission that we showed you earlier. We're asking for an increase of our flat budget that has been flat for a while in 21-22 of personnel to go up to 5.6 million. In operating, we're asking to go to 110,000 in operating. We are going up by increase of 386,000 and 7.17%. In 23, and as you can see, it'll be less in 24 because we're absorbing those positions in the 23 budget cycle, and a lot of the money put into operating was to handle and absorb those positions. And once again, we'll have to track legislation to see if anything changes. We started tracking bills this week, and Chairwoman Cupid, I heard you mention, and I think I've heard the county manager in past meetings mention that if we get any legislative things that we need to make the board aware of, we'll let you know. Our management team tracks those and has started making a list already of things we need to watch. For our next set is personnel only. And to get into the details of personnel, we're asking in 23 and 24 to increase our budget by 6.85%. That's $363,328. And we expect to need 3 full-time and 5 part-time positions in order to keep our levels of service up in the realm of customer service area we like to stay in. To go into a little bit of detail about those positions, and also let me reiterate that last slide also included some overtime that you'll see in this slide. The first position we're asking for is a Fiscal Tech 2 position for receiving online and in person fines expediently, a Judicial Admin Tech 3 positions for multiple code sections and county services restricting the record and submitting those record issues to GCIC on a very timely manner. We've also asked for part-time Judicial Admin Tech 2s. Right now we have 3 positions that we call reserve deputy clerks, and they're retirees from our office that come back and almost deal and work with us on when we're short, if we're short-staffed, if we need coverage in certain areas that serve the public, like the continuance counter on the first floor. These reserve deputy clerks have saved us during these staffing shortages, and right now we have 3, and they're split between 1 full-time position so that we don't go over our current budget. And what we'd like to do is expand those out, let them have their own individual part-time position, and add 2 more. In overtime, you'll see we've asked for 42,000, but we already have 10,000 in overtime. And I know that sounds like a small amount to some of my colleagues in different departments, but for us, it's been a much needed thing to do, because when we're staffing the court and serving those coming into the court, we have to just do the workload that comes at us at those times. Many times we have to wait till after hours or wait till Saturday to process some of that work, especially for rescheduling and recalendering. And just to let you guys know, back in 1999, we used $51,000 worth of overtime. And that's when we were going from paper to the digital case management system that we're on. So we're expecting that we're going to have to use that much, if not maybe more, going from the case management system we have now to the new one, because what we have to do is make sure that all of that has moved over correctly. And also, we feel like if the caseloads increase, if we have to be reactionary to other departments that have more staff from these budget requests, we'll have to be able to process those cases in the timely manner that's required by law for us to do so. In 2010 and 2011, that was a year that most every county department had to cut back their budget. So in 2010, we had $58,000 worth of overtime, and with the budget cutbacks, we had to go down to 10. And it's been hard to sustain that. So we appreciate the opportunity this time of being able to ask the commission for what we actually need. The next slide you'll see there is our operating. We're not looking at much of an increase. Most of that increase is on the front end of the 2023 budget for the positions that we're asking for because of the things that are required to house a new position. It's the numbers that we've received from some of our partners that support us. It, of course, goes down that next year. So the percent increase on the front end goes up 27%, and it goes down to 6.19%. I also wanted to thank publicly, when we got to these portions of the slide, our budget department and our finance department and Maria in the budget department for helping us make sure that we were staying true to what you all wanted to see in these slides. To get granular for these, I won't go into these too much of a detail because they're pretty self-explanatory, and some of these changes just came about, frankly, from the board allowing us to actually say what we need in some of these account lines and not have to move the money, because I think in previous budget year submissions, we could not ask for increase in account lines because it showed a percentage increase per account line. But now we're actually going to give you the truth of the matter to what we need, and I appreciate that. So these are pretty straightforward. There's only 2 slides of these that shows to that increase that we asked for our operating budget. We've asked for in-house training of food supplies, which is a simple thing, but all of our training has to be done during lunch most of the time because we cannot be away from the courtrooms. We cannot be away from the front counters. There's just not time to do that. So we have to take our employees' lunch times. Accountable equipment, you'll see 2 lines there because I was advised by budget to show one for the replacement of the accountable equipment that we need, which are things like chairs, furniture, things that would have to be tagged and kept up with by purchasing. But the second line of accountable equipment there are for the newly requested personnel, those 3 full-time positions. The part-time positions are in the next couple next lines down for Microsoft 360, but we did not ask for space for those part-time employees that we're adding because they are our reserve deputy clerks, which means they'll be sitting at a desk that is vacated by someone who's maybe on family medical leave or out of the office for some reason when we have to have mandated services covered. We have some software non-capital for some of the software that we use internally. We also have to keep up with our notaries that have to notarize our official documents. We're asking for some office machines and furnitures, but our filing machines, the things that actually put our file stamp on, are getting more and more expensive to maintain. We also have scrolling docket monitors that we use out of this account so that when it's like the airport, when people come into the court, they can look up on the monitor and see where their case goes, where they're supposed to report, and what time they're supposed to be there. Rental equipment, we've had to rent and work through with information services on some of our copiers. We need to add additional color copiers because of e-filing. When you file online from another office, like if an attorney is filing from their office or a constituent's filing from home, there needs to be a color file stamp copy on that. And if we put it into the record, we like for it to reflect that. Our bank service charges are estimated to perhaps go up for some protection software that we're looking at, so that there cannot be withdrawing on our funds without our consent, much like a fraudulent check or what they call a wash check, which can happen in public funds. Also, we wanted to provide some additional awards for some of our employees. We have a lot of retirees. Remember when I told you that year of 108 years of service? We'd like to celebrate them a little bit more, as I see some of our division managers may be leaving us soon. My last slide, and I feel like I'm not sure if I've given you everything you needed, is service requires collaboration. And our building, I'm not sure if people understand how many people come into our building, because I want you to think for a moment. Have you ever heard of a constituent that had a traffic ticket? Have you ever heard of a constituent that perhaps went with their 18 to 20-year-old for a minor in possession case? Have you ever heard of a constituent that had a medical malpractice case? Have you ever heard of an attorney trying a medical malpractice case? I mean, those are all people that come through our front door. And I worked with the sheriff's office from 2019 to 2020, which is not a long time, to ask them how many screenings happen at our front door. And if you put those numbers together, they've screened 402,465 constituents that have come through that door. That also includes jurors that come into our building. And so I feel like we need to collaborate to give all of this constituents all the services that they need. And to do that, we have to fund those who support us. The first presentation that I watched a while back was property management's, because if you'll notice in my budget, I didn't ask for any capital. And the reason that we didn't request it is because so much of what property has requested would be covered in that. They have long needed a capital replacement budget to help with these buildings. And I've long advocated for that capital replacement to go to buildings that have the most use. And I think if you look at 402,000 screenings in our checkpoint, that shows you our building has a lot of use. So I ask that you support any capital replacement budgets that they put in for our building. Also, personnel to clean a building that has that many people. The more use you have in a building, the more you're going to need cleaning. Also, I've asked that we support information services for so many things. That UCCMS, the United Case Management System I talked about earlier, that's the first new system we've had since 1999 in the courts. And I think maybe a 5-year plan to help fund either improvements or to move towards new technology for the courts when it happens, because these records are precious and we have to keep them, because we could impact someone's life or liberty if those records are not kept in the best way we can in technology. So I ask that you support their request. They've asked for a business analyst position that would impact our court. We really need somebody to help us with our forms, our reporting, our online services, our submissions to the AOC, our case counts, and to be able to help our internal and external customers. Our customers are the public. Our customers are the judges. Our customers are the solicitor's office. We have so many internal and external customers that rely on the record. So I ask that those things be funded. I also ask that records, we have a retention schedule that's by law of how long we have to keep things. And I know all over the county, there's been need for space to keep files and supplies and different things. And they do what they can, but like right now we're boxing up 2005, 2006 cases, but we have to keep them in our hallway till they have room. And any request that they've made through the records team and information services, I ask that be funded too. And I'm sorry we had some technical difficulties, and I apologize for that, but I'd be happy to take any questions you've had, or since I'm not sure what screens you guys did and didn't get to see when the connection went down, and I'd love to answer those questions.
Thank you, Robin, for an excellent presentation. It was informative and quite compelling for us to hear the significance of the work that you do, the level of responsibility imposed by the number of people that you serve, and with the relationship that you have to the state. I particularly appreciate your emphasis on service levels and in taking the lives that you impact every day to heart. And that really struck a chord with me, as I know that a lot of times the first contact someone will have with county government is with our court system. And I appreciate the level of value that you place on the impact that your work has on them. In that discussion about that file is their life or has a significant impact on their life. I also appreciate you stating that we have a better opportunity to get through our challenges if we work together. And I really think that's a theme that we can share throughout the county, whether or not it's in government or not. Despite our challenges and the things that hit us, we are so much stronger as a team. And I appreciate your emphasis with that. And you emphasize that in not only talking about your request, but recognizing the relationship that IS has with what you do, and also with property management and even finance, as you spoke about, them helping you put this presentation together here today. Similar to past presentations, some of the needs that you shared with us, I feel were basic things that I'm hoping that we can address even before the end of this fiscal year, that just seem to make sense in operating the county. And you spoke about why you're able to put that on the table now is because these presentations allow you to get to the truth of a matter. And so I appreciate you letting us know just certain things that are going without funding because we haven't gotten down to this granular level of knowing what the needs are of our departments. Trying to see here. And there was a question I had, and I think you addressed this in your presentation, Robin, but your adopted 2021 budget was higher than the adopted 2022 budget. And then the request that you have get close to that adopted 2021 number, but it's not even to that level. I think you may have talked about staffing, but I'm not sure if you can go ahead and explain that again.
Absolutely. One of the things that I learned getting it down to this granular level with the budget department is that finance in the spring of every year, I think it's around May, takes a snapshot of what you've spent on personnel, and that's how they project your next year and your next year in that personnel. And I think when they took the snapshot going into a couple of our years, we were 11 people down.
Okay.
And when that happens, what they adopt sometimes comes in lower. We've been able to be creative because we've been down, like I said, creating those reserve deputy positions and trying to work within those constraints. I feel like it may go more than that proposed. But from what I understand from my colleagues in budget and finance, that if it does go more, the positions are fully funded, but it's not in the projection because of the snapshot that's taken. And so many of the snapshots, as I understand it, were taken when people were, 9, 10, 11, 12 down.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. I don't see our finance director on here, but certainly that's something we can follow up with him on.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, thank you for just again talking about how closely tied to the courts your work is, because we've recognized that there's a backlog with our court system and the amount of effort and resources they need to be able to address that. But directly connected to that, as Judge Woke spoke about with some of her cases and their connection to the medical examiner, I think as the courts go, or a state court goes, your office goes. And so I don't know if there's opportunity kind county manager for us to address this with some of our funding that is tied to COVID to address some of that. But I know we just had an agenda item where the courts have asked for a grant to be able to address some of these needs. Is that something that some of your needs have been considered when that was proposed, or?
We've submitted some information to budget and I think to Mr. Giese in relation to the overtime that we've used to help schedule and reschedule cases as they've come through. The grant, I think that might be the state funding that's coming down. I think that's maybe that Judge Leonard has spoken of.
Yes.
It's my understanding that that funding gives priorities to felony cases. And of course, our caseload is mainly traffic misdemeanors, DUIs. So we wouldn't be eligible for that funding. I think where we've spent the money is in postage for all the notices that have had to be re-notified. Every time a court calendar is delayed, our crew has to recalendar those cases. But they can do it quickly. If we have the proper time and overtime, the professionals in my office can reschedule 4,000 cases in about 2 months. And they're incredible. They've done a phenomenal job keeping up with this.
That's significant. Thank you. I'm going to turn things over to commissioners to see if they have any comments or questions regarding this presentation here today. Yes, Commissioner Burrow.
Just thank you, Robin. Good job on the detail and a lot of what the chairwoman complimented you on, I would echo. But I agree, especially with the last slide where you are looking at partnerships and collaborating with other departments so that we don't duplicate services or capital or funding. So thanks for being thorough on that.
Thank you.
Yes. And a similar request to Commissioner Sheffield, it will be very helpful for the commissioners to get a copy of your presentation so we can refer back to it. And the same goes for our prior presenters.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to send that over.
Great. Again, thank you so much. This was an excellent walkthrough again of all the departments and the elected officials here today. I learned a lot about just how you operate in addition to the request for the budget. And I'm hoping that this is something that we can continue so that we can be mindful of the breadth of services that we have here in the county. And I look forward to us being able to address some of these issues. I would love to say we could address everything, but at least to be able to address some of these in the upcoming budget and to see what we can do now before then. With that, does anybody else have any closing remarks before we end today's work session?
Thank you and great job again.
Thank you, Commissioner. With that, thank you to all of our presenters. Thank you, IS staff, for making this possible here today. Thank you for all of our departments and department heads who are here with us for this presentation. And thank you to the public if you've taken opportunity to tune in today. We hope that everyone has a great rest of your day and week. Take care.